I want you to take a second and close your eyes. What does success look like? What does it feel like? Open your eyes. I'm 22 years old. I go to college and I still live with my mom. Success definitely does not look like my life currently does. I know that because I look at my friends who are all graduated and seem to be moving on with their life, and I think, wow, what is success? And why don't I feel that way? So naturally I turn to the resources that I care the most about, the ones that I always turn to, and that's Google, YouTube, and TED Talks. And naturally I found that success looks different on everyone, but ultimately is comprised of the same 3 ingredients. 1, vulnerability, which basically means we have to accept that we want something more than we have. 2, we need to include people in our dreams. We need to realize that what we want can be better accomplished with the other people around us. And 3, we need to recognize that success only happens step by step. So first we're going to talk about vulnerability. Brené Brown is a superhero on this topic because she gave a speech. She was supposed to be talking on courage and ended up having a breakdown on stage. And that was because she realized that her whole life's work of courage was actually rooted in vulnerability. And that fact ruined her. So after some time with herself and realizing that it was vulnerability that makes courage, she realized that each of us can find fuel for our daily life as we accept our own vulnerability. She says, vulnerability is our most accurate measurement of courage. To be vulnerable, to let ourselves be seen, and to be honest. In my opinion, being honest can be some of the hardest things we'll ever do. Maybe that's with other people, but I think being honest with ourselves is really hard. Remember when we were kids and we imagined that we'd grow up to be a princess, or an astronaut, or maybe even the president of the United States? What keeps us from dreaming like that anymore? I was thinking about it and I read a paper by someone named Christine Harris, and she talks about how embarrassment is something that we each experience in social settings to help us realize that if we ever want friends, we should never repeat whatever it was that made us feel embarrassed. That definitely makes sense to me, but at the same time, it's kind of depressing to think that we live our lives in fear of other people and their expectations of us. So being vulnerable, being honest with ourselves, has to do with accepting what we want, giving ourselves time alone with ourselves, and realizing what it is that we want to feel successful about, what it is that we want to dream, what it is that we feel we can become and that we feel like we can do. That takes a lot of time. And like Brené Brown says, a lot of courage. But one of the key things that I realized as well in my studies is there's someone named Mark R. Leary, and he did a study on embarrassment, and he showed that he had some college students sing an embarrassing song and put them in 3 different categories. Obviously, the control group didn't have to sing the song at all, right? So the first category, though, was people who sang the song and immediately talked about how they felt afterwards. Most of them related that they were embarrassed, that they were sweaty, and their faces were super red. The second group sang the song, but they weren't allowed to talk about it. They just had to write it down. So the first group spoke about it, the second group wrote it down, their feelings, and then the third group sang the song and couldn't say a single word or write a single word about it. They basically put them in their rooms and they waited 30 minutes and then they checked their vital signs, and they realized that the people in the first group who sang their silly song and then admitted how they felt about it showed the same amount of signs of embarrassment, which is none, that the control group did. They showed no signs of having experienced something so traumatic as embarrassment in social settings. The third group, however, still had racing hearts, sweaty palms, and flushed cheeks. This suggests that in order to overcome our embarrassment, we have to admit it to ourselves. Be vulnerable. Let yourself be seen. So aside from that, the next point is including other people in our goals. There's the longest study ever done, and I want to focus on it right now. It was done by Harvard. It was 75 years. Actually, is 75 years because it's still going on. They wanted to measure and see if it was possible to predict success in a life, if there were markers for success. So basically, they took these boys, and every 2 years they send them a survey, and they ask questions like, what have you been doing? How did you feel about that? Are you happy? And they noticed that there were no markers for success. Literally, some people were plumbers, some people were farmers, and some people were accountants. And there seemed to be no correlation between success, happiness, and joy, except for one thing, and that was their relationship with other people. They found, and it didn't have to be romantic, it could have been platonic, a friend or a family, someone important to them. When they felt comfortable with the people that were around them, they realized that they were so much happier, that they felt successful in their lives, no matter what age they were. Including other people in our goals also helps us be accountable for them. I know that I can set a goal to go to the gym, but unless I tell my roommate that I'm going to the gym, I will never go to the gym. Maybe it's because she asks me, hey, did you go to the gym today? Or maybe it's simply because of that embarrassment factor of, I know I should be doing this, and I want her to know that I know I should be doing this. Including other people in our dreams also helps us come up with better ideas for how to accomplish them. 2 brains are better than 1 brain every time. So not only are those 2 things important, but lastly, it's most important to recognize that dreams are accomplished 1 step at a time. Helen Keller is a great example of how, honestly, the whole world can be revealed through 1 letter, 1 word, 1 feeling at a time. We can never give up on what it is that we hope, that we dream, that we want to have happen in our lives. It's important for us to, if we want to dream, to go on a vacation, for example, start today. Figure out where it is you want to go. Set aside time, set aside money. Figure out the supplies you're going to need to make it there. It's important that sometimes we'll stumble along the ways, but that never means that we have to give up before we get there. It's important that every step gets us closer and closer, and sometimes we trip, but we can get back up. So, in conclusion, being vulnerable, including people in your dreams, and taking it step by step is going to be the key to success in your life. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it feels like quite yet, but I know I'm on my way. And I know that if you keep working at it, the success that you so desire to feel can be more of a reality to you than today is.